मोहन जू की जाय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यलभविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यलभविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यलभविष्ट महाभागवत शिल गोरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्यलभविष्ट शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्यलभविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुग गौरीय गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदाता गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। सारार्थ-darśinī वृत्ति की जय। श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश की जय। रुक्मिणी देवी की जय। श्री हरि अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सार्वभूतहृदयां मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो यभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रयेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमं शरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Haribo, Indira Mataji, Madhavi Didi. Oh, Bhagavat Maharaj. Which Bhagavat Maharaj is that? I don't know. Maybe Sucharu Prabhu? That one. Prajumna Prabhu, Mantra Murti Mataji, Gargarajji, Dandavat Pranam. Oh yes. I've been wanting to do that, but there's been so many things that I just haven't been able to get around to it. I do eventually want to do it though. I don't know when though. And actually, Pradunabru, I would like to start reading in the evening times. Um, but I don't know. I have to see if I can actually practically fit that in. But I would like to start reading from our Acharya's books. Maybe, anyways, I don't know. I'll let you know when I do come up with something. Haribo Raseshwari Mataji. And no, I never came across the Radha Tantra. No. Okay. So maybe let's go. Let's read everything from. What am I doing? I'm going to database.io. Yeah, we can just read all the translations up to where we are. Then, okay. So, 10th canto. I mean, should we read from Bhagavat Pravaha? No, let's. That'll be quicker if we read from Bhagavat Pravaha. One second. Where is it? Sorry, I'm really spacey. Krishna teases Queen Rukmiṇī. Okay. There. Oops, I just want the translation. Okay. So Sri Badarayani said, once, in the company of her maidservants, Queen Rukmini was personally serving her husband, the spiritual master of the universe, by fanning him as he relaxed on her bed. The unborn personality of Godhead, the supreme controller who creates, maintains, and then devours this universe, simply as his play, he took birth among the Yadus to preserve his own laws. Queen Rukmini's quarters were extremely beautiful, boasting a canopy hung with brilliant strings of pearls, as well as effulgent jewels serving as lamps. Garlands of jasmine and other flowers hung here and there, attracting swarms of hummingbees, and the spotless rays of the moon shone through the holes of the lattice windows. As Aguru incense drifted out of the window holes, my dear king, the breeze wafting the scent of the Parijata grove carried the mood of a garden into the room. There the queen served her husband, the supreme lord of all the worlds, as he reclined on an opulent pillow on her bed, which was as soft and white as the foam of milk. Isn't that so cool, though, that the jewels serve as lamps? Anyways, yeah, it's such a beautiful description. The moon shone through the holes of the lattice windows. Okay. From her maidservant's hand, Goddess Rukmini took a yak hair fan with a jeweled handle, and then she began to worship her master by fanning him. Her hand adorned with rings, bangles, and the chamar fan, Queen Rukmini looked resplendent, standing near Krishna. Her jeweled ankle bells twinkled, and her necklace glittered, reddened by the kumkum from her breasts, which were covered by the end of her which were covered by the end of her sari. Her hips, uh, on her hips she wore a priceless belt. As he contemplated her, the goddess of fortune herself, who desires only him, Lord Krishna smiled. The Lord assumes various forms to enact his pastimes, and he was pleased that the form the goddess Fortune had assumed was just suitable for her to serve as his consort. Her charming face was adorned with curling hair, a locket on her neck, and the nectar of her bright, happy smile. The Lord then spoke to her as follows. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear princess, you were sought after by many kings as powerful as the rulers of planets. They were they were all abundantly endowed with political influence, wealth, beauty, generosity, and physical strength. Since your brother and father offered you to them, why did you reject the king of Chedi and other suitors who stood before you, maddened by Cupid? Why instead did you choose us, who are not at all your equal? Terrified of these kings, O lovely browed one, we took shelter in the ocean. We have become enemies of powerful men, and we practically abandoned our royal throne. O fine browed lady, women are usually destined to suffer when they stay with men whose behavior is uncertain and who pursue a path not approved by society. We have no material possessions, and we are dear to those who have nothing. Therefore, O slender one, the wealthy hardly ever worship me. Marriage and friendship are proper between two people who are equal in terms of their wealth, birth, influence, physical appearance, and capacity for good progeny, but never between a superior and an inferior. O Vaidarbhi, not being force, not being farsighted, you didn't realize this, and therefore you chose us as your husband, even though we have no good qualities and are glorified only by deluded beggars. Now you should definitely accept a more suitable husband, a first class man of the royal order who can help you achieve everything you want, both in this life and the next. Kings like Shishupal, Shalava, Jarasandha, and Dantavakra all hate me, O beautiful thighed one, and so does your elder brother Rukmi. It was to dispel the arrogance of these kings that I carried you away, my good woman, for they were blinded by the intoxication of power. My purpose was to curb the strength of the wicked. We care nothing for wives, children, and wealth. Always satisfied within ourselves, we do not work for body and home, but like a light, we merely witness. Why is Krishna talking in, why is he saying we and not I? I remember in Vishwanath Chakravartī Thakur's commentary, though, it kept on saying I. I wonder if it's a mistranslation or if he's referring to himself and Baladev, or I don't know. I'm just curious if anybody. Anyways, um, Shukadev goes. Rukmini had thought herself especially beloved by the Lord because he never left her company. By saying these things to vanquish her pride, by saying these things to her, he vanquished her pride, and then he stopped speaking. Goddess Rukmini had never before heard such unpleasantries from her beloved, the Lord of universal rulers, and she became frightened. A tremor arose in her heart, and in terrible anxiety she began to cry. With her tender foot, effulgent with the reddish glow of her nails, she scratched the ground, and tears darkened by her eye makeup sprinkled her kumkum reddened breast. She stood, face downward, her voice choked up by extreme sorrow. Rumi's mind was over with unhappiness, fear, and grief. Her bangles slipped from her hand, and her fan fell to the ground. In her bewilderment, she suddenly fainted, hair scattering all about as her body fell to the ground like a plantain tree blown over by the wind. Seeing that his beloved was so bound to him in love that she could not understand the full meaning of his teasing, full Lord Krishna felt compassion for her. The Lord quickly got down from the bed. Manifesting 4 arms, he picked her up, gathered her hair, and caressed her face with his lotus hand. Wiping her tear-filled eyes and her breasts, which were stained by tears of grief, The Supreme Lord, the goal of his devotees, embraced his chaste wife, who desired nothing but him, O king. Expert in the art of pacification, Sri Krishna tenderly consoled pitiable Rukmiṇī, who was bewildered by his clever joking and who did not deserve to suffer so. The Supreme Lord said, O Vaidarbhi, do not be displeased with me. I know that you are fully devoted to me. I only spoke in jest, dear lady, because I wanted to hear what you would say. I also wanted to see your face with lips trembling in loving anger, the reddish corners of your eyes throwing sidelong glances, and the line of your beautiful eyebrows knit in a frown. The greatest pleasure worldly householders can enjoy at home is to spend time with their beloved wives, my dear timid and temperamental one. Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, Queen Vaidarbhi was fully pacified by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and understood that his words had been spoken in jest. Thus, she gave up her fear that her beloved would reject her. Smiling bashfully as she cast charming, affectionate glances upon the face of the Lord, the best of males, Rukmini spoke the following, O descendant of Bharata. Rukmini said, Actually, what you have said is true, O lotus-eyed one. I am indeed unsuitable for the almighty personality of Godhead. What comparison is there between that Supreme Lord, who is the master of the three primal deities and glory, and myself, a woman of mundane qualities whose feet are grasped by fools? Yes, my Lord Urukram, you lay down within the ocean, if afraid of the material modes, and thus in pure consciousness you appear within the heart as a supersoul. You are always battling against the foolish material senses, and indeed, even your servants rejects the privileged dominion which leads to the blindness of ignorance. Your movements, inscrutable even for sages who relish the honey of your lotus feet, are certainly incomprehensible for human beings who behave like animals. And just as your activities are transcendental, O all-powerful Lord, so too are those of your followers. You possess nothing because there is nothing beyond you. Even the great enjoyers, Brahma and other demigods, pay tribute to you. Those who are blinded by their wealth and absorbed in gratifying their senses do not recognize you in the form of death. But to the gods, the enjoyers of tribute, you are the most dear as they are to you. You are the embodiment of all human goals and are yourself the final aim of life. Desiring to attain you, O all-powerful Lord, intelligent persons abandon everything else. It is they who are worthy of your association, not men and women absorbed in the pleasure of grief resulting from their mutual lust. Knowing that great sages who have renounced the sannyasi's danda glories, that you are the supreme soul of all the worlds, and that you are so gracious that you give away even your own self, I choose you as my husband, rejecting Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the rulers of heaven, whose aspirations are all frustrated by the force of time, which is born from your eyebrows. What interest then could I have in any other suitors? My lord, as a lion drives away lesser animals to claim his proper tribute, you drove off the assembled kings with the resounding twang of your Sharanga bow and me, your fair share. Thus it is sheer my dear Gadagraja, for you to say you took shelter in the ocean out of fear of those kings. Wanting your association, the best of kings, Anga, Vainya, Jayanta, Nahusha, Gaya, and others, abandoned their profuse sovereignty and entered the forest to seek you out. How could those kings suffer frustration in this world, O lotus-eyed one? where to? I forgot. Oh, we read up to 38. Sorry, I'm going too far. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Oh my God. Right? Did I read up to? Let me just check really quick. Yes, 38. Sorry, guys. Tvam vai samasta purusha. Tvam vai samasta purushartamaya phalatma. Yarvanchaya sumatayo visrijanti kritsnam. Tesham vibo samuchito bhavata samaja. Pungsa striyashcharatayo sukadukhinornam. You are the embodiment of all human goals and are yourself the final aim of life. Desiring to attain you, O all-powerful Lord, intelligent persons abandon everything else. It is they who are worthy of your association, not men and women absorbed in the pleasure and grief resulting from their mutual lust. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Here Rukmiṇī refutes Krishna's statement in text 15, Yayor Atma Samam Vitam Janmaishvaryakritir Bhavat Tayor Vivaho Maitri Cha Notamad Damayo Kvachit. Each one of these prayers that Rukmini is saying is refuting one of Krishna's statements that he made, as we read yesterday. Okay, so marriage and friendship are proper between two people who are equal in terms of their wealth, birth, influence, physical appearance, and capacity for good progeny, but never between superior and an inferior. So now she refutes that statement of Krishna's. Rukmini said, "You have said that one should marry only a person equal in wealth. That is possible for others, but not for you. You are the end goal of all human endeavors. The association or relation is between the served and the servitor, between Narayan and Lakshmi, between you and myself, not between a mundane man and woman who are attracted in mutual lust." Tvam nasta dandav munibir garitanubhava atmatmadascha jagatam iti me vritosi hitva bhavar bruva udirita kala vega dvasta shishobja bhavana kapatim kutonye. Knowing that great sages who have renounced the sannyasis danda proclaim your glories, that you are the supreme soul of all the worlds, and that you are so gracious that you give away even your own self. I chose you as my husband, rejecting Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the rulers of heaven, whose aspirations are all frustrated by the force of time, which is born of your eyebrows. What interest then could I have in any other suitors? Commentary. In this verse, Rukmini refutes Krishna's statement in text 16, Bhikshu shlagita muda. O fool, I am praised only by beggars. So she refutes that by explaining the super excellence of being praised by beggars. Rukmini said, those so-called beggars are actually sages in the Paramahansa stage of life who have reached the highest level of spiritual advancement and thus given up the sannyasi rad, the danda. Your powers are glorified by such bhikshus, or Paramahansas. Everything becomes auspicious by praising you, the soul of all souls. Therefore, praising you is not foolish. Rather, if you say it is foolish, you are foolish. Knowing that you give yourself to those in the universe who worship you, I have chosen you as my husband. Nevertheless, you have said Vaidarbhyetad avigyaya. My dear Vaidarbhi, out of ignorance, you have chosen me as your husband. This shows you did not know my intelligence in this matter. I have chosen you after rejecting lesser personalities like Brahma and Shiva, whose benedictions are all destroyed by the force of time emanating from the movement of your eyebrows. What then to speak of my rejecting inferior persons like those kings? My dear husband, your accusation that I lack foresight, in text 16, indicates that you did not know of my deep insight into the situation. Actually, I chose you because I clearly understood your true glories. One second. Sorry. Okay. Jaryam vachastava grajyastu bhupan vedravya sharngamina nina jahartamang tvam singho yata sabalim isha pashun swabhagam tebhyo bhayad yadudadhim sharanam prapanna. My lord, as a lion drives away lesser animals to claim his proper tribute, you drove off the assembled kings with the resounding twang of your Sharanga bow and then claimed me, your fair share. Thus, it is sheer foolishness, my dear Gadagraja, for you to say that you took shelter in the ocean out of fear of those kings. Commentary. In text 12, Krishna said, Rajabhyo bibhyata subhru samudram sharanam gatam. Krishna said, terrified of those kings, we went to the ocean for shelter. Then suddenly, Rukmini manifested the sthai bhav of man, of anger. Yay, Krishna got what he wanted. Having already hinted at Krishna's ignorance of her knowledge and foresight, Rukmini became provoked to anger by hearing Krishna glorifying other men who might have become her husband. Rukmini clearly indicates Krishna's ignorance while frowning and casting angry sidelong glances at him. Rukmini said, your words are foolish. Like a lion, you defeated all the other kings and took me away as your prize. Therefore, it is simply foolish for you to say, out of fear of those same kings, you went to the ocean. But, Krishna may object, earlier, verse 35, you said that it was true that I took shelter of the ocean out of fear. Rukmini, Rukmini. Yes, but that was my foolishness. Yadvanchaya nripashika manayonga vainya jayanta nahushagaya daya aikyapatyam rajyam visrija vivishur vanamambujaksha siddhantite nupadavya ihastita kim. Wanting your association, the best of kings, Anga, Vainya, Jayanta, Nahusha, Gaya, and others, abandoned their absolute sovereignty and entered the forest to seek you out. How could those kings suffer frustration in this world, O lotus-eyed one? Commentary. In this verse, Rukmini intends to tell Krishna, you said, uh, you said, women who follow my path generally suffer. You said that in verse 13. That is also a foolish statement. You have also said that I, a king's daughter, am unintelligent and frustrated because I married you. But how could you accuse all the great enlightened kings like Jayanta, Bharata, of being unintelligent? They were the wisest of men, yet they gave up everything to follow you, and were certainly not frustrated by the result. Indeed, they achieved the perfection of your association. Kanyam srayeta tava pada sarojagandam agraya sanmukaritam janatapavargam lakshmyalayam taviganaya gunalayasya martya sodorubhayam artha vivita drishti. The aroma of your lotus feet, which is glorified by great saints, awards people liberation and is the abode of goddess Lakshmi. What woman would take shelter of any other man after savoring that aroma? Since you are the abode of transcendental qualities, what mortal woman with the insight to distinguish her own true interests would disregard that fragrance and depend instead on someone who is always subject to terrible fear? Commentary. In two verses, verses 42 to 43, Rukmini replies to Krishna's statement, you should choose a more suitable husband. Rukmini said, only a woman who has never heard your glories would take shelter of another husband. What mortal woman who has once smelled the fragrance of your lotus feet or heard your glories praised by sages who are like bees would accept anyone but you? One becomes liberated simply by hearing or chanting your glories. Conversely, anyone who does not appreciate your topics, such as a man-eater or the daughter of a witch, will take shelter of someone else and consequently always experience great fear. How could any sane, discriminating woman take shelter of anyone but you? In text 16, Krishna said that he was gunar hina, bereft of all good qualities. To refute this claim, Rukmini states that Krishna is Layasya, the abode of all transcendental qualities. Tang tvanurupam abhajam jagatam adhisham atmanamatra chaparatra chakamapuram syanme tavangrir aranam sritibhir brahmantya yo vai bhajantam upayantyanrita pavarga. Because you are suitable for me, I have chosen you, the master and supreme soul of all the worlds, who fulfill our desires in this life and the next. May your feet, which give freedom from illusion by approaching their worshipper, give shelter to me, who have been wandering from one material situation to another. Commentary. Rukmini said, but I am the daughter of a human, however. So after hearing about your qualities, I have taken full shelter of you. Because you are suitable as my very supersoul, I should surrender to you who are most favorable. With the sudden appearance of the sthāyi bhav known as humility, Rukmini, though she is the eternally liberated consort of Krishna, humbly thinks of herself as an ordinary human bound by karma. She then prays for the opportunity to worship the Lord. May I attain the shelter of your lotus feet after wandering for many births. An alternate reading for the word stribhi is shrutibhi, in which case the idea Rukmini expresses is this: O my beloved, I was bewildered by hearing about your various incarnations. I heard that when you descended as Ram, you abandoned your wife Sita, and that in this life you abandoned the gopis. Also, by hearing just now the way that you've been speaking, I'm experiencing delusion and various confusing doubts. Nevertheless, your feet have mercifully approached your worshipper, coming of their own accord to destroy a multitude of illusions. May I surrender unto your lotus feet, which give happiness and a continuous taste of nectar to persons like us. Rukmini hints that she would rather surrender to Krishna's lotus feet than his lotus face, because that face, with his mouth and words, sometimes emanates poison, even death inflicting poison. At other times, Krishna's face gives life restoring nectar. Tasyasyurachyuta nripa bhavatopadishta Strinam griheshu karago shvavidala Yatkarnamulam ankarshananopyayad Yushmat kata mridavirincha sabhasugita. Infallible Krishna, let each of the kings you named become the husband of a woman whose ears have never heard your glories, which are sung in the assemblies of Shiva and Brahma. After all, after your glories, which are sung in the assembly of Shiva and Brahma. After all, in the households of such women, these kings live like asses, oxen, dogs, cats, and slaves. Commentary. Pointing her index finger at Krishna with jealous anger, Rukmini spoke fiery words to condemn the kings whom Krishna had praised in verse 10 of this chapter. Rukmini said, These so-called great kings are like asses because their wives sometimes kick them. They resemble dogs because they behave inimically towards outsiders in order to protect their home. They are like cats because they eat the remnants of their wives. And they resemble slaves because they are servile in family affairs. Such kings may appear desirable to a foolish woman who has not heard or understood your unlimited glories. O destroyer of enemies, you drag my enemies like Shishupal to the kingdom of death. Tvakshmashruro manakakesha pinadamantar mang sasti rakta krimivit kapapitavatam jivachchavam bhajati kantamatir vimudha yate padabjamakarandam ajikrati stri. A woman who fails to relish the fragrance of the honey of your lotus feet becomes totally befooled, and thus she accepts as her husband or lover a living corpse covered with skin, whiskers, nails, head hair, and body hair, and filled with flesh, bones, blood, parasites, feces, mucus, bile, and air. Commentary. Rukmini said, on the authority of the scriptural statement Savai Prati Syad Akuto Bhayasvayam, he indeed should become one's husband who can remove all fear. You alone qualify as the real husband for all women at all times. An ordinary husband's body is covered on the outside by skin and hair. Otherwise, it would be overwhelmed with flies and millions of other insects and vermin attracted by its foul smell and other offensive qualities. And inside the husband's body is filled with blood, bones, feces, flesh, bile, worms, and phlegm. She who thinks of this living corpse as my husband and worships him is simply a fool. Why are they so foolish? The honey sweetness of your lotus feet and the fact that you possess an eternal transcendental body full of knowledge and bliss is well known. Yet due to being whipped up into a tempest by the reciters of the Puranas, foolish women reject you. Astvam bujaksha mamate charananuraga atman ratasya maichan atirikta drishte yaryasya vriddhaya upattara jyoti matro mam ikshase taruhana paramanukampa. O lotus-eyed one, though you are satisfied within yourself and thus rarely turn your attention toward me, please bless me with steady love for your feet. It is when you assume a predominance of passion in order to manifest the universe that you glance upon me, showing me what is indeed your greatest mercy. Commentary. Here Rukmini replies to Krishna's statement regarding his indifference to family life. Always satisfied within ourselves, we care nothing for wives, children, and wealth. Oh, that was Krishna's statement, yeah. Just by pondering over Krishna's indifference or neutrality, Rukmini reached a state of calmness in the sthāyi bhav known as neutrality, sthana. Then, submerging in an ocean of humility, she spoke this verse. Let me have loving attachments to your feet, even if you are indifferent. Your indifference to me is appropriate, since you glance on the entire universe with indifference. Because you take pleasure within yourself, you rarely look at me. Humbly identifying herself with Krishna's external energy, which is her expansion, Rukmini says, though you do not often look at me, when you are ready to manifest the material universe and thus begin to work through the mode of passion, which is your potency, then you will certainly glance upon me, and I will rejoice. It will be a great display of mercy for me, and I will accept it as my greatest fortune. The inner meaning of Rukmini's statement is as follows. Rukmini said, "Actually, you are very attached to me, as attested by your own words. I am also thinking about her." Oh, sorry. His own words. Sorry, as attested by your own words. I am also thinking about her so much that I cannot sleep at night. Those are his words. Tataham apitat chito nidram nacha labhe nishi. That was in chapter 53, verse 2. Yet, from your statement, udasina vayam, in text 20, we see that you are indifferent. Therefore, if you are attracted to me, then I must be your supreme internal potency, your Surup Shakti. Thus, even though you are self satisfied, you take pleasure in me. But if I am your external material energy, then you will be indifferent to me. In this way, you have both attitudes towards me, and I am in both kinds of relationship with you. Naivalikam ahamanye vachaste madhusudana. Oh, sorry. Naivalikam ahangmanye vachaste madhusudana. Ambaya evahi praya kanyaya syadharati kvachit. Actually, I don't consider your words false, Madhusudan. Quite often, an unmarried girl is attracted to a man, as in the case of Amba. Commentary. Rukmini said, or else you are teaching other men about ordinary female psychology by using me as an example since I am a woman. Having refuted everything Krishna said, Rukmini, in a gracious frame of mind, now praises the truthfulness of his statements. Thus, I do not consider your statements that I should marry a person of similar qualities to be false. After all, in this world, sometimes a woman becomes attracted to some man before marriage. For example, of the three daughters of the king of Kashi, Ambika, Ambalika, and Amba, Amba became attracted to Shalva. Let me just check the comments really quick. Oh, Dandavat Pranam Sajan Maharaj, Shripad Sajan Maharaj, and also Dandavat Pranam Ganga Mataji, Haribo. Vyudayaschapi Pungshalya Manobhyeti Navam Navam Buddho Satin Nabhipriyat Tam Pribhrad Ubhayachuta. The mind of a promiscuous woman the mind of a promiscuous woman always hankers for new lovers, even if she is married. An intelligent man should not keep such an unchaste wife, for if he does, he will lose his good fortune both in this life and the next. Commentary. Rukmini said, even married women may desire newer and newer lovers. An intelligent man will not marry such a woman, for he will suffer in this life and the next. You, being omniscient, would have rejected me already if you had known me to be like this. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Saitachrutukamaistvam Rajaputri Palambhita Mayoditam Yadanvata Sarvam Tat Satyamevahi. The Supreme Lord said, O saintly lady, O princess, we deceived you only because we wanted to hear you speak like this. Indeed, everything you said in reply to my words is most certainly true. Commentary. Krishna said, we joked with you wanting to hear your words. Shrotu Kamais is in the plural to indicate that not only Krishna, but some of Rukmini's maidservants also wanted to hear. The plural can also indicate that all of the functions of Krishna's sense of hearing desired to enjoy the fun of hearing Rukmini's statements. Krishna said, having been the object of my jokes, you interpreted whatever I said in another way, which was most certainly true. Yan yan kamaya se kaman, maya kamaya bhamini, santihe kanta bhaktayas, tava kalyani nityada. Whatever benedictions you hope for in order to become free of material desires are ever yours, O fair and noble lady, for you unalloyed devotee. Commentary. What benediction can I, who am supremely satisfied, give to her? Thinking thus, Krishna said, whatever desires you have in regards to serving me and me alone in pure love, free from all self-interest, are all fulfilled. O woman full of prem, O Kamini. The alternate reading is Bhamini, O angry one, indicating that Rukmini was angry because Krishna obstructed her service with his crooked words. By describing Rukmini as Ekanta Bhaktayas, my unalloyed devotee, Krishna excludes any material meanings to the words Kamayase and Kaman. Upalabdham pati prema pativratyam chate naghe yad vakyashchalyamanaya nadhirmaya pakarshita. O sinless one, I have now seen firsthand the pure love and chaste attachment you have for your husband. Even though shaken by my words, your mind could not be pulled away from me. Krishna said, even though you were somewhat disturbed by my words meant to break your love, your heart, which is filled with the most intense love for me, did not decrease even a little in its love. What to speak of getting destroyed? Thus I have directly seen the sterling quality of your love. O sinless one, O sinless one, who have committed no offense even through your servitors, please forgive me for the offense I committed to you. The scriptures describe the pure love between Rukmini and Krishna as follows. Sarvata dvangsarahitam tyapi dvangsakarane yadbhava bandhanam yuno saprema parikirtita. When the love between a young man and a young woman can never be destroyed, even when there is every cause for the destruction of that love, that pure love is known as prem. It's a famous definition. Ye mam bhajanti dampatye tapasa vratacharyaya kamatmano pavargesha mohita mama mayaya. Although I have the power to award spiritual liberation, lusty persons worship me with penance and vows in order to get my blessings for their mundane family life. Such persons are bewildered by my illusory energy. Commentary. In this verse, Krishna condemns materialistic devotees who, for the sake of mundane pleasures in household life, worship the Lord with prayers like, may my husband give me happiness, or may my wife give me happiness. According to a statement in the prose part of the fifth canto, the word apavargesham means the giver of prem. Another meaning of apavargesham is the Lord who makes the four ordinary goals of human endeavor insignificant. Mam prapya maninapavarga sampadam vachanti ye sampara eva tatpatim te mandabhaga niraye pine ye matratmakatvat niraya susangama. O supreme reservoir of love, unfortunate are they who, even after obtaining me, the Lord of both liberation and material riches, hanker only for material treasures. These worldly gains can be found even in hell. Since such persons are obsessed with sense gratification, hell is a fitting place for them. Commentary. In this verse, Krishna elaborates upon what he said in the previous verse. If, after obtaining me, the source of both inferior and material wealth and the bliss of liberation, if even after obtaining me, they want the paltry bliss which can be squeezed out of the mundane opulences gained from the four ordinary human endeavors, They are most unfortunate. After all, even in hell or in lower life forms such as like pigs and dogs, one can very easily get happiness from association with women and other objects. Such unfortunate souls attached to sense gratification will take birth in hell or as pigs and other low creatures in order to be completely absorbed in sense enjoyment. Such a birth is quite suitable for them. Tishtya asakrinmayi Tishtya griheshvarasakrinmayi tvaya Kritanuvrittir bhavamochanikalai Sudak sudushkaraso durashisho Yasung bharaya nikritam jushad striya. Fortunately, O mistress of the house, you have always rendered me you have always rendered me faithful devotional service, which liberates one from material existence. This service is very difficult for the envious to perform, especially for a woman whose intentions are wicked, who lives only to gratify her bodily demands, and who indulges in duplicity. Commentary. Krishna said, "You have performed devotion which releases one from the bondage of the material world. But since you are eternally liberated already, others will become liberated by executing such devotional service." Rukmini may object as follows. But then, but then, will even low class women become liberated by devotion? Krishna answers, no. Women who are envious, duplicitous, and full of wicked motives for sensuous delights can never perform bhakti. Na tadrishim pranayinim grihinim griheshu pashyami manini yaya swavivaha kale praptan nripan naviganaya raho haro me prastapito dvija upashrutkatasya. In all my palaces, I can find no other wife as loving as you, O most respectful one. When you were to be married, you disregarded all the kings who had assembled to seek your hand, and simply because you had heard authentic accounts concerning me, you sent a Brahmin to me with your confidential message. Commentary. Krishna said, "Oh, Manini." Manini means respectful one? Okay. I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, mana means to give respect, but okay. Oh, Manini, among all my loving wives, you are the best. You sent me a confidential message through a Brahmin after hearing many true stories about me. Raho Haro means the bringer of something confidential, as defined in the Vishvakosh dictionary. Rahoti Guhye Surate. The word rahas can refer to a confidential secret or to sexual relations. Bratur virupakaranam yudinirjitasya prodvaha parvani chatar vadagoshyam dukam samuttamasaho smarayogabhitya naiva pravi kimapitena vayam jitaste. When your brother, who had been defeated in battle and then disfigured, was later killed during a gambling match on Aniruddha's wedding day, you felt unbearable grief. Yet, out of fear of losing me, you spoke not a word. By this silence, you have conquered me. Commentary. Krishna said, "Your brother was killed by Baladev at the gambling match during the wedding of Aniruddha. Out of fear of separation from me, you did not express your sorrow or say, 'You should not have done that.' However, for the sake of common opinion, you did display slight sadness. Great joy arose from that sorrow because violence was wreaked on Rukmi, my enemy. From this verse, it is understood that Krishna's talks with Rukmini must have taken place after the marriage of Aniruddha. Tutastvayatmalabane suvivikta prastapito maichira yati shunyametat matva jihasa iramangamananya yogyam tishte tatar tvaivayam pratinandayama. When you sent the messenger with your most confidential plan, and yet I delayed going to you, you began to see the whole world as void and wanted to quit your body, which could never have been given to anyone but me. May this greatness of yours remain with you always. I can do nothing to reciprocate except to joyfully thank you for your devotion. Commentary. Krishna said, when the messenger sent by you for obtaining me was delayed, you considered the whole universe vacant and thought of giving up your life since your body was not meant for anyone else. This is what you said in your message to me. Yar hyambujaksha nalabheya bhavat prasadam jahyam asun vratakrishan shata janmabi syat. If I cannot attain your mercy, I shall simply give up my vital force, which will have become weak from the severe penances I will perform. Then, after hundreds of lifetimes of endeavor, I may obtain your mercy. That's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10.52.43. That action remains with you, and I cannot repay you in any way for it. I can simply rejoice. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Evam Suratta Sanglapar Bhagavan Jagarishvara Swarato Ramaya Reme Naralokam Vidambayan. Shukadev Goswami said, and so the self-satisfied Supreme Lord of the universe enjoyed with the goddess of fortune, engaging her in lovers' talks, and thus imitating the ways of human society. Commentary. In this way, the self-satisfied Lord enjoyed through joking conjugal conversations with his wife, his personal expansion. The word vidambayam means imitating, and also ridiculing. Thus, Krishna played like a husband of this world, but by his transcendental pastimes, he condemned material life by showing its inferiority to his transcendental happiness. This is the last verse of the chapter. Tatanyasam api vibhor griheshu grihivaniva astito grihamedhiyan dharman loka gurur hari. The Almighty Lord Hari, preceptor of all the worlds, similarly behaved like a conventional householder in the palaces of his other queens, performing the religious duties of a family man. Thus ends the commentary on the 16th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam for the pleasure of the devotees in accordance with the previous acharyas. Okay, so tomorrow is New Year's Day. So tomorrow on New Year's Day, we will read chapter 61 and maybe also chapter 62 because they're both short. Or maybe we'll just read part of 62. I don't know. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandhar Vikagiri Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shila Gorkishoras Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nugogoriya Guru Varga ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Dashagunath Shar Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय श्री भक्ति देवी की जय श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश की जय श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय Sārārtha-darśinī commentary की जय श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवश्च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Dandavat pranams, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Thank you. Haribol and Dear Mataji. Oh, and just in case you want to know, maybe I'll share my screen so you can see. I can do this every now and then. These are the next festivals coming up. So in 2 days will be Putrada Akadashi. Then in 4 days is Srila Bhakti Kumar Santa Goswami Maharaj's disappearance day. That's my that's on the lunar calendar. That's my birthday. Then Purnima is in 6 days. Then Gopal Bhatta Goswami is in 10 days. Jagadish Pandit. Oh, Jagadish Pandit is in 3 days. Oops. It's all mixed up. Anyways, and Narahari Seva Vigraha Prabhu's disappearance day is in 12 days. So Kadashi in 2 days. Cool. All right. Eddie well, everybody. See you all tomorrow.